Okay, let me ask you something. How important is it to you that your politicians, regardless of, what level, whether it's your city council person, your county legislator, your governor, your Congress member, how important is it to you that that person views English as their first language, as their primary language? I bring this up because on Tuesday, Ismail Mohammed gave his victory speech in Somali after he won the Democratic primary for the state's 3rd House district. I sit here, you know what I think? The first time I heard it, and I heard it yesterday, I thought, what an insult. Not that you can't be proud of your roots. You should be. But the guy literally just won a primary to be a potential member of Congress. And if you listen to what his acceptance speech sounded like, well, here it is. He didn't speak any English in his victory speech. Not one lick of English. Now, that is just one massive double middle finger to the country. That's what that is. Now, listen, he's a citizen. He can run. He won a primary. This is America. I'm not saying you throw him off the ballot or anything like that. But I am going to sit here and say to myself, okay, what does that say to the American voter? There's a reason you do something like that, right? It's not like the guy can't speak English. He can. You make a targeted decision to not speak English in an acceptance speech where you are potentially about to be a member of the United States Congress, where English is the official language. Imagine, you, myself, any of us, imagine moving to another country, right? And, you're in that country, you spend some time, you become a citizen of that country. Let's say China, Japan, whatever. And you run for elected office and you win a primary. And then you give your speech in English. I can only speak for myself. I'd be embarrassed. I'd be ashamed. And I think back to a story, my grandmother has told as a first-generation American, Italian-American. And she tells a story about my grandpa. And he was a first-generation Italian-American. Came over, Ellis Island, New York City fireman, the whole thing. He was once as a kid, so this is going back to probably the early 1930s, mid-1930s. And he's with his mother in the grocery store. And she starts speaking to him in Italian. And he was so embarrassed, he was so ashamed that he started basically reprimanding her as a little kid, saying, speak English. He was embarrassed that his mother was speaking to him in Italian in the grocery store in the mid-1930s in New York City. Think about that compared to what you just heard. A guy giving his acceptance speech on winning a Democratic primary in this country for the United States Congress in Somali. I know that we're a melting pot here in America. That's what makes this country great. But we're a melting pot that when we were at our best, loved America, accepted American values, and all agreed that we had to have certain things that connected us, right? We had to have certain cultural things that connected us. We had to have certain languages, like the English language, that connected us. You need to have that to have any kind of national identity. Now, of course, there are people, largely in one political party, that do not want America to have any identity. They just want it to be a free-for-all. No borders, really no countries. We're just kind of one global people, and we're all going to get along, and we're all going to live our lives together, and that's going to be that, and there's no borders, and there's no meaning to anything. There'll be a global currency, and the whole deal. Kind of like, New World Order, World Economic Forum type stuff. And when you see individuals like this thumbing their nose at literally the United States of America in this kind of a way, what else do you think? And I'm reminded of a clip. I was thinking about this clip because I had it to use last week, and I don't think I ever actually used it. And it's Joe Biden back in 2006. He's on Chris Matthews' show. Remember the guy, Chris Matthews, who got the tingle up his leg from Obama in 2008? He was on MSNBC for years. Here's Joe Biden and Chris Matthews talking about the importance of having a connected fabric when it comes to a language in any given country. Here they are, almost 20 years ago. This is Joe Biden, Chris Matthews, MSNBC, 2006.
And the last part of this is that the Democratic position also recognized you got 11 million illegal aliens here. They have to have a way to earn their way into the deal. This is an amnesty. They're required to take 11 years' worth. They pay a fine. They got to learn to speak English. They got to pass tests.
I like the English part.
Yeah.
I like the English part.
By the way,
if we want the problems of Canada right now, keep encouraging people to keep their foreign language. English is going to unite this country potentially. It always has in the past.
I can't think of a country that has two languages as their accepted languages that is doing all that well, including Switzerland and or Canada.
It divides us. Yeah. You can't talk to each other. Anyway, thank you, Senator Joe Biden.
That was Chris Matthews, Joe Biden, 2006, MSNBC.
A much younger Joe Biden.
Much younger, much more coherent.
Hunter.
Yeah, wasn't just speaking in gibberish. As some of you know, Pete, Joe Biden gives his victory speeches in gibberish.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, either way, I'd take gibberish over Somali. And that's nothing against Somali. It's just you have to have at least the connections between Americans and an agreement that, hey, I'm not saying deny your culture. I'm not saying, when you're under your own roof or you're anywhere. But there's got to be a pride in being an American, first and foremost. I mean, theoretically, that's why you're here. And part of that pride has to include accepting not every single, I'm not saying deny your own culture, but if you can't give a victory speech when you're running for Congress in English, what does that say? How is anyone supposed to read into that? Now, some of you are arguing on the text line, well, what if the people at the, at the rally don't speak English? Well, you know what? Doesn't matter. Out of respect for the office you're running for, in the country that you're running for office in, you owe it to that seat, potentially, that you're going to serve in. You owe it to the office. You owe it to the country that you're running for office in to deliver a speech that is in the fabric of the country that you are running for office in. That's it. 913-408-7957. 913-408-7957. Pete, you're overreacting. Let the guy give an acceptance speech in Somali. The voters will decide if they like it or they don't on Election Day. Yeah, they will. I didn't say throw them off the ballot or anything like that. But I'm telling you, it's an example. It's an example of how many people do not want to view America as America. They want to view it as a place where they can do whatever they want, they can embrace, and they can take the goodness of America while not adhering to just any of the standards and the cultural fabric that has made America what it's been. And it's not something that anyone should be jailed for or anything like that, but it's a microcosm of many of the problems that we're looking at right now and facing right now.